So in the 1980s, there was a legendary director who pretty much captured teen life, angst, uh, just thinking about just the way how they exist and the difficulties and struggles that they go through. John Hughes, who of course directed many legendary movies. Ones that come off the top of my head: 16 Candles, Pretty in Pink, The Breakfast Club, and this one I was interested in seeing, Weird Science. If you can't get a date, make one. After proving himself the game of heartfelt teen flicks with 16 Candles on The Breakfast Club, writer-director John Hughes infused the genre with a hefty dose of whacked-out sci-fi comedy and Weird Science, a film where every teenage boy's wildest fantasies come true. Perennial picked on high school nerds Gary, played by Michael Anthony Hall in 16 Candles, and Wyatt, Ilan Mitchell-Smith, I-L-A-N, are sick of their status at the bottom of the social food chain. Using Wyatt's computer, the two hatch a plan to create their dream woman, and following a massive power surge, the woman unexpectedly appears in the form of Lisa, played by Kelly LeBrock. Gorgeous, intelligent, and blessed with limitless powers, Lisa can make the boys' dreams come true. But what about Wyatt's gun-toting psycho older brother Chet, played by Bill Paxton? And the two bullies, Robert Downey Jr. and Vamp's Robert Russler, determined to put them back in their place. Inspired by EC Comics and boosted by a killer soundtrack, including the classic theme by Oingo Boingo, Weird Science has never looked better in this new special edition, including an exclusive extended version of the film featuring deleted scenes and never released on home video before. 94 minutes. This one, I'm like, this is one of those I feel mixed about. So John Hughes was a little bit more passionate about The Breakfast Club, so he kind of did this one to get the okay from whatever company it was on the IMDb, Universal, who said, okay, I will write this, but he kind of had some difficulty / frustrations with it. And you can kind of see. I mean, it's fine. It's watchable. But at the same time, it felt like it could, thematically, it could have been just more. Because it's like we've got the notion of the girlfriend here, who is played by the great Kelly LeBrock. But it just felt like maybe thematically this could have explored more like the science side about what is it like to love artificial intelligence versus a real woman? Gee, isn't that going on nowadays? And it just felt like it could have done it rather than this trying to just be wish fulfillment. Okay. The two, Hall and Mitchell Smith do a passable job. They're nerds, but they're likable. It's like the standard performance that you're going to get that you always see. That's what this is. And I'm like, okay. At least it's entertaining because of their banter. Kelly LeBrock just steals every scene that she's in with her dialogue, specifically the witticisms, one-liners, comebacks, and of course her good looks. But let's just say that she's the type that would just it's like she's the Deus Ex Machina to solving all the problems of these other characters. It's like both of them were right around like 15, 16 when this was made, and that's what this movie feels like. It's aimed specifically for teenagers who grew up in the 1980s / early 90s, right before the 90s came in. With like grunge. It was like when the 80s were still transferring into the 90s. That would be the best way to describe it. That would be how I would describe the age range for this movie. And you could tell it is kind of like a fantasy for them. So I guess I can't be too hard on it, but at the same time, that's exactly what it is. So thematically, that's like, standing up to your parents, getting what you want, and just like having to prove yourself in like one way or another. It's like it kind of was going against all the macho, like, movies that were going on at the time with all the jocks and everything. I guess you could call it, like, Saved by the Bell featuring an AI generated woman, so that's what I guess it is. But what really steals the scene, I will have to admit, is Bill Paxton. He is the hilarious, gun-toting person who is just so over the top, filled with so many one-liners, and just Looney Tunes-esque exchanges. That's what this movie is like. It's like Dr. Seuss / Looney Tunes-esque motifs, of the dialogue, the insanity, rapid-fire camera shots, and everything else. That's what this movie is. And it is, but I will bet, it is gosh darn funny in, say, like, the last 45 minutes. Let's see, there's a missile that comes out, just straight up an ICBM that just extends through the house, which is probably also a symbolic motif of you-know-what. There are there are Mad Max-inspired bikers that come through the house and wreak havoc, because one of them was an actor in the Mad Max franchise. I forgot who. So this is kind of like a nod to either one or two, because I think 3 came out like a year after this one. So that was interesting to see. It was interesting just to see all these humorous actors, and it was at this point that these two, Gary and Wyatt, stood up to the bikers and actually used words, dialogue to make them leave. And that, I guess, was kind of what was going on. It's like, you don't have to do extreme acts of bravery, but you kind of have to have balls in order to make things happen, And, it's just funny to see. It's like, here are all these people that don't speak much, but once they leave, the girl that's kind of that's got the chain around her neck that belongs to the captain is like, sorry about what happened earlier. One of them says, yeah, sorry what happened. And then the guy who Michael Berryman, I think his name is, says, yeah, sorry about that. Please don't tell anyone. I don't want this affecting my teaching job. That was freaking funny. Arguably the funniest scene in the movie. There's a part, we're in the bathroom where they're talking about bowel movements. It's just the bowel movement scene alone where they're talking is one of the funniest things. And for some reason, there's a picture of King Crimson on their Beat Tour. I'm like, who puts a poster of a King Crimson Beat Tour flyer in a bathroom? That was one of the most random things, one of the most unexpected things I've ever seen. But yeah, this movie is totally decked out in the 1980s. You got all the posters in the teenager's bedroom. You got general public, Depeche Mode. You got freaking Y&T in Rock We Trust. That doesn't scream 1980s with a robot with an axe guitar doing this. It's like, I don't know. But yeah. So, how do I feel about this ultimately? The performances from Bill Paxton and Kelly LeBrock make this. The gags and humor are truly great, but it feels like a teenager's fantasy, and thematically it could have explored a little bit more. But given the circumstances that was going on with John Hughes, I think that this movie is one you watch to get nostalgia for / a weekendish movie, I guess would be the way to describe it. So it's like a 6, 7 out of 10. So if you want a movie that's funny, some wild performances, and maybe a little bit of sci-fi, then I recommend that you watch Weird Science.